the most shocking detail in this double murder isn't rage or madness, but a doctor's decision made because someone hated gaining weight. This story doesn't begin with blood. It begins quietly, inside exam rooms, with prescriptions, with complaints, with a choice that, according to revelations now made public, may have pushed a fragile mind into a fatal spiral that ended with 2 lives gone, and a nation asking how this was allowed to happen. For weeks, the public searched for why. Why did Nick Reiner unravel? Why did the violence explode the way it did? Why did no one stop it? And now, TMZ says they finally unlocked the missing piece. One detail so disturbing it reframes everything.
We told you on TMZ Live last week that the thing that may have taken him into this fatal spiral was that they changed his meds for a mental condition called schizoaffective disorder.
They changed it about a month before Rob and Michelle were killed.
That single sentence detonates the entire narrative. A fatal spiral, a medication change. 1 month, 2 deaths. Not years, not decades. Just weeks between a medical decision and a violent outcome that no one could reverse. And at the center of it all, psychiatric medication that had supposedly been keeping him stable. But here's where the story turns from tragic to explosive.
And now we know why they changed it.
This had been the big mystery. And the reason that they changed it, well, we unlocked this pretty late last week, right before the documentary went to air.
Right.
For months, this was the unanswered question. The silence. The gap. The part of the story that never made sense. Why would doctors alter medication for someone with a severe psychiatric condition, especially if stability was already fragile? The answer, when it finally surfaced, stunned even seasoned observers. Because it wasn't about safety. It wasn't about emergency psychosis. It wasn't about violent threats. It was about weight.
And we were able to confirm that it was indeed weight gain, that Nick Reiner apparently had complained that he had gained weight, which he had, by being on these drugs.
Let that sink in. Weight gain. According to TMZ's reporting, Nick Reiner complained that his medication was making him gain weight. Not an unusual side effect, not a rare outcome, something doctors see every single day. And yet, instead of addressing the side effect while keeping the core treatment intact, something else happened.
Doctors accommodated him, changed the meds, and he went out of his head.
This is the line that changes everything. Doctors accommodated him. Doctors changed the meds. And after that, everything collapsed. The phrase "went out of his head" isn't poetic. It's catastrophic. It suggests a sudden break, a loss of control, a descent that didn't creep in slowly but snapped into place. And the timing? Chilling. Weeks after the medication switch, Rob and Michelle were dead. This is where outrage begins to build. Because once this information surfaced, a new question replaced all the old ones. Was this preventable? The medical world now finds itself under a harsh spotlight. Because when someone with a serious mental illness is stable, even imperfectly stable, every adjustment carries risk. Every pill change is a gamble. And in this case, the gamble may have cost 2 lives. Even experts looking back can't ignore what happened next.
Well, fascinating question. Obviously, in retrospect, it was a bad choice, right? That's a very easy position for us to take now.
Those words are clinical, detached, almost polite, but behind them sits a brutal reality. Once the damage is done, hindsight becomes meaningless to the victims. Because the moment's stability was disrupted, the countdown may have already started. And then comes the reaction from the public, the part that fuels the anger, the disbelief, and the comments section firestorms.
I think for the average person, they think, well, that's a vain choice. Like, if you have to weigh the 2 things that are more important, the weight gain or being stable mentally.
That's the question everyone is asking. Weight gain or mental stability? Physical discomfort or psychological collapse? And here's where the story becomes deeply uncomfortable. Because this isn't just about one patient. It's about a system, a culture, a willingness to accommodate dissatisfaction even when the stakes are life and death. But the spiral didn't stop at medication. Because another shadow looms over this case. One that pushes the violence into even darker territory.
Kind of violence that was on display here, to me, still reads methamphetamine. I keep saying that over and over again. It's not enough to have decompensated schizoaffective, the level of the violence. And when he was picked up, it's worth trying to understand what part of town was he in? What was he doing there?
Yeah.
You know, was he near MacArthar Park?
It was it was a drug den. It was a drug den.
Guess what? That didn't start that night. that didn't start.
Right.
That's probably he needed more and he went to get more. Probably. I don't have any direct knowledge of this, but it's methamphetamine is the drug of violence.
This changes the scale of the horror. The violence wasn't just extreme, it was excessive, beyond what even a severe mental health decompensation might explain on its own. And when drugs enter the picture, everything accelerates. Medication changes, possible substance abuse, a mind already destabilized, layer upon layer stacking toward disaster. And once that threshold is crossed, there's no rewind button. Now, fast forward to the present, after the murders, after the headlines, after the documentaries, after the explanations. Where is Nick Reiner now? Still spiraling, not competent. Even now, the collapse hasn't stopped, which leaves the public staring at a haunting possibility that the moment doctors changed those medications, the trajectory was already set, and no one stepped in fast enough to stop it. This isn't just a crime story, it's a warning story. It's a system failure story. And in part 2, the questions get even darker. Why wasn't he put back on the original meds? Who had the authority to intervene and didn't? And how many red flags were missed before everything went violently wrong? The most disturbing part of this story isn't just what happened, it's what didn't happen after the warning signs started flashing. Because once Nick Reiner began spiraling, once the medication change clearly wasn't working, the obvious question became impossible to ignore. Why wasn't he put back on the meds that had kept him stable? This is where the silence grows loud. Doctors didn't rush to reverse course. Authorities didn't step in with emergency intervention. And whatever safeguards people assume exist around severe psychiatric cases, they didn't stop this one. According to those closest to the situation, there were gaps, long ones, moments where help could have arrived, but didn't. And the reasons are murky enough to fuel endless suspicion. Was he refusing treatment? Was he avoiding doctors? Was drug use clouding everything? Or was the system simply powerless once he slipped out of reach? Experts openly admit there are dozens of possible explanations. But that uncertainty is exactly what enrages people, because uncertainty is where preventable tragedies hide. What is clear is this: once medication stability is broken, regaining control isn't automatic. It's fragile, complicated, and sometimes impossible without full cooperation. And if someone disappears into addiction, paranoia, or isolation, even the best medical intentions mean nothing. That's where the next failure may have occurred. Because this wasn't a person under constant supervision. This wasn't someone locked into mandatory care. He was free to drift, free to disappear, free to spiral. And when addiction enters the picture, everything changes. Substance abuse doesn't just worsen psychiatric symptoms, it hijacks judgment, destroys compliance, and fuels aggression. Combine that with a destabilized mental condition, and the result isn't unpredictable, it's explosive. Which is why experts zeroed in on the violence itself. They didn't describe it as impulsive. They didn't describe it as confused. They described it as extreme. The kind of violence that suggests escalation, obsession, a loss of restraint that goes beyond emotional breakdown. And once that threshold is crossed, the person you were trying to treat is no longer reachable in normal ways. By then, intervention becomes reaction, and reaction comes too late. That's what makes this case so haunting, because when the murders finally happened, everyone suddenly wanted answers, suddenly wanted to rewind the tape, suddenly wanted to know who should have stepped in sooner. But by then, Rob and Michelle were already gone. 2 lives erased while the system scrambled to explain itself. And here's the cruelest irony of all. Now, after everything, Nick Reiner is deemed not competent to even face trial, which means the courtroom, the place people expect truth, accountability, and closure, may never deliver it. There may never be a clean resolution, no dramatic confession, no final explanation that makes this make sense. Just fragments, just timelines, just hindsight. And that leaves the public stuck with the most uncomfortable question of all. If a medication change over weight gain can help trigger a collapse this severe, how many other cases are quietly balancing on the same edge right now? Because this wasn't just a bad outcome. It was a chain reaction, a complaint, an accommodation, a medical decision, a spiral, a failure to intervene, a violent end. And the reason this story shocks shocked everyone isn't because it's unbelievable. It's because once you see the pieces laid out, it feels terrifyingly possible. This wasn't a monster created overnight. It was a breakdown in slow motion, hidden in paperwork, appointments, and good intentions. And that's what makes the Nick Reiner case so unsettling. Not that it happened, but that it could happen again.